having a plan B or something to take its place. And since then, virtually, we've been calling for a change in the law in order to allow fishing with nets that are EU compliant. And our position has been that we felt that eventually the government would have to do precisely what the government is doing now.
Hello and welcome to News Review. This week, the Minister for Europe, David Lidington, made a statement in the House of Commons saying the actions of the Guardia Civil in last week's incident at sea were totally unacceptable and dangerous. Addressing Parliament following the incident in British Gibraltar territorial waters, Mr Lidington said the Guardia Civil launch approached Royal Navy vessels conducting a routine transfer of personnel and conducted several dangerous manoeuvres. He confirmed the minor collision between the Spanish boat and the GBP launch and said there were no injuries and there was no damage. He also said no shots were fired. The Minister said the UK's defence attaché in Madrid raised concerns the following day and that the incident had also been raised at a high level with the Spanish Foreign Ministry. A formal written protest was also issued to Madrid. The opposition this week called on the government to state publicly whether Spanish fishermen will have to apply for a licence to fish in Gibraltar waters or whether they'll be allowed to fish by virtue of their membership of their respective cofradías. It followed Parliament's approval last week of an amendment to the Nature Protection Act that paves the way for the licensing of fishing with EU-compliant nets. The bill was passed in the absence of the opposition, who walked out in protest at the government's refusal to answer a question regarding Credit Finance Gibraltar Limited. The GST says the government's decision to allow a resumption of commercial fishing subject to certain conditions vindicates its own position. Stephen Nish asked opposition leader Daniel Feetham to explain why.
Could have, and I may recall that our position from the outset when this crisis broke as a consequence I had indicated the tearing up of the 1999 agreement by Mr Cortés on face fishing was, and you shouldn't have done away with the decision to take the bill without having over the plan B or something to take its place. He's ever done so. And since then, the debate we've been calling on the fishing bill, the law in order to allow fishing with nets that are EU compliant commenced. And our position has been that we felt that eventually the government would have to do precisely what the government is doing now.
You say that the Chief Minister could have recessed and come back up perhaps equally. You could have chosen to ask the question on Credit Finance Limited at a future meeting of Parliament when there wasn't this important motion, rather a bill to be debated, so perhaps you miscalculated
because this is just a euphemism because Spanish nets and giving into is of vital importance to this community. Well, lo and behold, we were 18 months later, and I think it was in the government that we asked the question at an early juncture. We called upon them to do 18 months ago.
Nevertheless, you would have
the government political space in September.
Supported this bill in Parliament. Had you been there, of course you weren't there because you'd walked out in protest at a question that had been asked and not answered by the government on an unrelated matter. In retrospect, you think that perhaps it was wrong of you to have walked out?
No, not at all, because I think that the credit finance and savers is going to be the most important issue affecting Gibraltar politics over the next 2 years. In order to allow individuals and companies how the government would answer this particular question in the light of thereby effectively increasing government revenue, questions in relation to the sum, parking the liability, the tax liability that the individual company owed the government, and unanimously all the MPs, without anybody being able to scrutinise what has happened. I think that is scandalous, and it was the government refused to answer the earliest possible opportunity in Parliament to ask what was a very, very serious and important question, because the matter is so serious that we think that once the regulations have been passed and the fishermen, the Spanish fishermen, do return to some form of fishing, that will be the end of the problem with Spain, or do you think that this has all been like an excuse from the part of the Partido Popular government and that some other crisis will be manufactured in order to keep up the restrictions and the hostility towards Gibraltar? Well, I think it was obvious that the Pepe government took the decision to take the bill over the launch adjournment. It's the first time that he's ever done so. The debate on the fishing bill, for example, the amendments to Nature Protection Act in December of 2011, the first reading commenced at 1:20 past. Janito Trest was, he could easily have come back at 3:15. as was originally planned.
You say that the Chief Minister could have recessed and come back after lunch. Equally, you could have chosen to ask the question on Credit Finance Limited at a future meeting of Parliament when there wasn't this important motion, rather a bill to be debated, so perhaps you miscalculated that?
No, not at all.
Meanwhile, the Chief Minister took the argument that the opposition leader's credibility in the eyes of the community was falling one step further by asking him to consider resigning. This follows the latest statement from the opposition on the lack of information on the government-owned company Credit Finance Limited. Stephen Nish spoke to Fabian Picardo and put it to him that, to Mr. Freetom's credit, an earlier full statement from the Chief Minister with information may have meant that the opposition would not have had to have gone on about the subject.
Well, it might have saved a lot of trouble if Daniel Freetom had read my interview with the Chronicle on the 5th of July, which sets out the basics of what it is that I said in the statement yesterday. There's nothing new there. We've expanded on some of those issues. The sort of thing that we could have talked about in Parliament is if instead of simply asking the question that he and every lawyer in Gibraltar and everybody who has any training in lending and commercial issues like banking knows, they asked the one question that could not be answered. They asked a question knowing it could not be answered because they wanted to create a dramatic effect. Let me put it to you and to your viewers in this way.
If we get back to the Daniel issue, do you think that once the regulations have been passed and the fishermen, the Spanish fishermen, do return to some form of fishing, that will be the end of the problems with Spain, or do you think that this has all been maybe like an excuse from the part
he would have known
of the
that was the answer, and then he would have
got
up and walked out and said that the government is not transparent.
In order to keep up
the most transparent government of our democratic time.
Well, I think it was
we have more
obvious
meetings of
that
a parliament,
the government was going to be looking for excuses.
We cannot answer some questions, and we will not answer some questions where there is commercial sensitivity and where it's in the taxpayers' interest that we don't answer questions. Like, for example, the issue of Commonwealth Park, where Mr. Figueres doesn't just want to know what it's going to cost, he wants to know what we're spending every single day. We'll give you a minister one day. Let's hope he's not. Then he can have a management account of things. If Mr. Freetom wants to change the law about banking secrecy and about lending secrecy and about commerciality of disclosures, then he can have that sort of information. What he should have asked about, and what
Meanwhile, the Chief Minister took the argument that the opposition leader's credibility in the eyes of the community was falling one step further by asking him to consider resigning. This follows the latest statement from the opposition on the lack of information on the government-owned company Credit Finance Limited. Stephen Nish spoke to Fabian Picardo and put it to him that, to Mr. Freetom's credit, an earlier full statement from the Chief Minister with information may have meant that the opposition would not have had to have gone on about the subject.
When he has made exactly that sort of trouble if Daniel Freetom had read my interview with the Chronicle. If my premiership can be criticised for anything by members in the statement yesterday, there's nothing new there. It does not favour them. Many people might have the sort of thing that we could have winning the general Parliament if instead of simply parties that asking the question that he and every lawyer in Gibraltar and everybody who has any training in lending and commercial issues like banking certainly knows. But Mr. They asked the one question that could not be answered. They asked the question in his knowing it could not be answered because they wanted to create a dramatic government effect. Let me put it to you and to your viewers in this way, Stephen. So that if Daniel Freetom had asked the government, will the government please make available Stephen Nish's medical records to the opposition? Or shut up. And he cannot demonstrate that the answer would have been because it is untrue. We're not prepared to make such a serious allegation. He would have known that that was the answer, and then he would have got up and walked out and said that the government is not transparent. Our system of government and opposition, the most transparent government is the government of the Chief Minister. They trust the leader of the opposition. We can argue about things, but there must be trust between us and the population. We cannot answer some questions. In doing what he has done, we will not answer some questions where there is commercial sensitivity and where it's in the taxpayers' interest that we don't answer with his party. Like, for example, consider very carefully what his next step is. Remember, that he will always be recalled for having criticised what we're spending every single day. We'll give you the minister having said that he might remove. Let's hope he's not. Then he can have a management having said that he would quickly go. If Mr. Freetom wants to change the talks about banking secrecy, this allegation, lending secrecy, and about commerciality, when you put all those disclosures, then he can have that Mr. Freetom's credibility. What he should have asked about, and what he would have got the information and what he needs to do is consider lending criteria, what it is that we are considering.
Well, I was going to say, when people use that expression, think what the opposition is getting at, even though they might not want to say so, saying is that that person should resign. Is that what you're doing? Are you suggesting some of it is being used to help people, companies, individuals who are close to the GSOP liberals?
Well, if they're saying that, then that is absolutely disgraceful. And I know that they are, because disaffected members of the GSD have received a letter email from Daniel who are very disappointed exactly with that sort of allegation. That is never thought I'd hear myself say this. If my premiership can be criticised for anything than it's getting by members of the GSLP, it is important that we're going to have it's because it does not favour debate in our many people might have expected issues. Winning the general saying that credit finance is not important. Parties that we're going to have a reasonable debate about these issues we should have it based on the facts. Nobody should be allowed to invent the facts or to pretend certainly dramatically that there are reasons for has made a very serious allegation, and I know that there are many people in his email to members very disappointed. He has said that Daniel Feetham has the government through credit finance is lending to GSOP in relation to credit finance, in relation to the issue with Spain, and in relation to just about everything else that he's dealt with. Mr. Feetham needs to
A woman charged with child abduction appeared before the magistrate's court on Wednesday. 36-year-old Helena Boeg arrived on the Rock on Tuesday. This follows a European arrest warrant which dates back to April, when the Royal Gibraltar Police appealed for information on the whereabouts of Miss Boeg and her 5-year-old son, Merlin Farkowski. Merlin is understood to be safe and well. The Justice of the Peace granted her legal aid, and the matter has been adjourned until the 13th of this month, with the defendant remanded in custody.
What his next step is. Remember that he will
now, the King of Spain's daughter may not have visited the Rock on Tuesday, but the Spanish naval ship bearing her name certainly came close. The incident has been treated as unlawful. The patrol boat, the Infanta Elena, based in Cartagena, re-entered British Gibraltar territorial waters on Tuesday, coming a mile and a half off Europa Point. The Royal Navy read warnings, but the ship continued transiting on the east side. The convent informed London and Madrid. It's awaiting a full report, and a formal protest will be lodged.
What they're really saying is that
it was another busy week at the Marache trial at the Supreme Court. On Monday, the judge heard how a client was asked to loan the former law firm £150,000 in order for Marache employees to get paid their salaries before Christmas in 2009. On Tuesday, a former legal cashier at Marache & Co. told the Supreme Court that for his last few months at the firm in 2007, there was not enough money in the office account to pay salaries, and so monies were transferred from client accounts. And later on in the week, the Supreme Court heard how Isaac Marache reportedly spent up to $1 million on personal matters in the months preceding the collapse of the former law firm. There's more on the ongoing Marache trial in full detail on our website, gbc.gi/news. And we'll be back with more of this week's news after the break.
Has discharged his responsibility as leader of the opposition in relation to credit finance, in relation to the issue with Spain, and in relation to just about everything else that he's dealt with since February.
A woman charged with child abduction appeared before the magistrate's court on Wednesday. 36-year-old Helena Boeg arrived on the Rock on Tuesday. This follows a European arrest warrant which dates back to April, when the Royal Gibraltar Police appealed for information on the whereabouts of Miss Boeg and her 5-year-old son, Merlin Farkowski. Merlin is understood to be safe and well. The Justice of the Peace granted her legal aid, and the matter has been adjourned until the 13th of this month, with the defendant remanded in custody.
A smart choice.
Now, the King of Spain's daughter may not have visited the Rock on Tuesday, but the Spanish naval ship bearing her name certainly came close. The incident has been treated as unlawful. The patrol boat, the Infanta Elena, based in Cartagena, re-entered British Gibraltar territorial waters on Tuesday, coming a mile and a half from the Gibraltar Federation of Small Business, and individual trader continued transiting on the east side. The idea being that the convent informed London and Madrid, particularly it's awaiting a full report, and a formal protest will be lodged. Saturday, the 7th of December, it was another busy week at the Marache trial at the Supreme Court. On Monday, the judge heard how a client was asked to loan the former law firm £150,000 in order for Marache employees to get paid their salaries before Christmas in 2009. On Tuesday, a former legal cashier at Marache & Co. told the Supreme Court that for his last few months at the firm in 2007, there was not enough money in the office account to pay salaries, and so monies were transferred from client accounts. And later on in the week, the Supreme Court heard how Isaac Mossack Marache reportedly spent up to $1 million on personal matters in the months preceding the collapse of the former law firm. There's more on the ongoing Marache trial in full detail on our website gbc.gi/news. And we'll be back with more of this week's news after the break.
I went to the FSB conference last year in March, and the speakers of the FSB conference,